let me officially start the kickoff for the first MetricsDAO book club and say thanks and how glad we are to see you here for this historic, albeit very cozy occasion. We're also recording, so anyone who is not here for the start will be able to watch the replay on the MetricsDAO YouTube channel. And yeah, let's kick this off. So today we will just give the book club kind of a good solid foundation. We will talk about how the book club came to be a little bit. There is a story there. You'll learn how it works. I'll talk about how to participate. And we will also talk about our first book, which is for December last year and January this year, extended throughout the month of January. And it is Storytelling with Data by Cole Nussbaumer Knaflic. So yeah, as you might know, if you come to our events here at MetricsDAO, we like to acknowledge you being here, live, participating, being an active part of our community. So for all of you who are here live, we'd like to send you some Xmetric. Xmetric is MetricsDAO's beta token. It is not monetary, so think of it like monopoly money. It does not have monetary value. And it's also not transferable once we send it to you. You can't not send it to somebody else. What it represents is an on-chain immutable record of you actively participating at MetricsDAO and being early here at MetricsDAO. So be sure to claim your Xmetric. I will drop the link in chat right now. So be sure to fill that out during the live call because it'll close shortly after. Drop your details so we can send you that Xmetric. So I want to begin talking about the book club now by kind of taking you on a small throwback of how it came to be a few weeks ago. As you may have heard, MetricsDAO runs free courses that teach you concepts in Web3 data and help you become a Web3 data analyst and gain knowledge and skills. And we are really lucky to have very engaged and very active learners in those courses that we teach. And in November and December last year, we ran a live cohort of our Web3 Analytics 101 course. And the students in that cohort actually suggested this idea of a book club for the DAO as a whole to help us all grow as analysts, improve our skills, get better at understanding data, presenting it, visualizing it, all those fun things. And the learners in that cohort actually came up with the first kind of long list of books and ideas for books that they wanted us to read. That inspired the idea that brings us here today. And the long list of books is the one from which we voted and picked the book of the month. So big thanks to our live cohort number 2, which ran in December and November last year for kind of planting the seed and being kind of the reason why we're here today. So from now on, we are kicking off MetricsDAO Book Club and we will read a book a month. So where can you find our book club? I shared in the chat a couple of minutes ago 2 links. I shared the Notion about our book club and I shared a tag to a reading group channel in our Discord. So those contain all of the information. Be sure to kind of check them out and follow them and follow the updates that we post there. The Discord forum is called Reading Group. It's in our community tab, so if you're kind of browsing through our channels on the left side, you will see something called Reading Group. That place is a home for this book club and also in the future for an article and white paper and blog post kind of reading group. So we'll also be reading shorter length pieces that are, not books, but are still relevant and important for analysts in Web3 and for kind of people here at the DAO and interested in DAOs, relevant topics like that. And then in our Notion, you can kind of peruse that and it takes you through kind of all of the steps, all of the things we'll do here today and over the course of the book club in the next few weeks. So I mentioned our kind of long list of books that we picked from and that got started by our community members already. So that's on the Notion, and kind of the very first step, one you can take at any time. If you get an idea for a great book for us to read and consider, drop it there. You can drop it in the forum. There is we'll make a thread there for it if it's not already there. But just like any book ideas that you might think, this is a great book for us as analysts to read at any time, you can drop that. We would love to see those. And then next month, from our growing long list, we will again vote on the next pick. So last time we voted was in December. We chose Storytelling with Data, which is the book we're reading. And because of the kind of end of year, and we did the second half of December, and then many community members were taking time for the holidays, we decided to extend the same book into January as well. So next, at the end of January, we will vote on our February book, and kind of so on. And all of those come from our long list. It's in our Notion, and when you recommend more books to us, we will kind of put all of them in there. So that's going to be our kind of bank of books to choose from. So now we've got Storytelling with Data, which some of us have already started to read in December, and the book that we're going to be reading in January too. All you have to do if you want to read that book, the book of January, is to head to the reading group forum that I just tagged in our chat. And you'll see kind of a post that shows 3 parts, 3 kind of weekly sections that we're going to go in, and the chapters that are included that we're going to be reading at that time, and some discussion questions. So as you start reading, just drop your questions, drop your thoughts, anything you think, anything you learned, anything that arose to you, answering the questions that are posted there, or kind of your own thoughts, something you didn't agree with, anything that comes up for you as you're reading those sections, please post it in the forum, in that thread. And I'll also be there and posting with y'all and reading the book with y'all, and some of our contributors are as well, so you'll probably hear from them there too. And at the end of the month, we'll meet again, like the session here today. A monthly book club session is what we're going to aim for, and we'll kind of discuss and recap. And also something that we want to do, if you are reading the book and if you are kind of applying tips, it's a very practical book. If you're applying tips directly to your work, like some of us have done here, and we'll talk about it later today, be sure to kind of save that and take a note of that, because you will be able to share it with us in the next live book club session. We'll talk about kind of how some of us have read the book and are creating a kind of better, more impactful visualizations and dashboards out of that. Wanchioku asked in the chat, do we recommend a hard copy or soft copy? Doesn't matter. Whichever works for you, whichever is your preferred format, really doesn't matter. Let's see if there's any other questions. All right, looks like no other questions for now. So all of this information, our layout, you can find in the reading group Discord forum, which is in our Discord server, and also in our Notion for the book club. They're both in the chat. Now that we kind of have a layout, let's actually look at the book that all of you voted on, or a community voted on and picked for December and January, Storytelling with Data. It's a really interesting book. So it teaches you kind of the fundamentals of good data visualization. So it's very, very practical. And that's one of the reasons it's a helpful thing for us as Web3 analysts to read it, because it's something we can directly apply to our work. It helps kind of communicate more effectively with data, which is something that's really important. If you ever looked at the MetricsDAO dashboard evaluation criteria in particular, if you haven't, I'll post them in the chat. Something that comes up there is a whole category for professionalism. And professionalism has to do a lot with how you get your point across. Is your dashboard or your piece of analysis effective? Is it kind of easy to read, is easily digestible, is a busy audience member or partner who is kind of trying to get insights from that, getting that in that exact way? Is they're getting are they getting it quickly? Are they getting it efficiently? Are they understanding why you're showing the data? And kind of all of those aspects of great communication and visualization of data. So if this fits in really, really well with that to help improve our professionalism skills. And I know, again, some of us are already applying tips from the book to our work. And the author, Coldness Bomber Knaflick, has a background at Google, where she was an analyst, I think, for people analytics, and that's where kind of she developed the best practices and the materials, and then a course that she taught, and then it kind of got distilled into this book. So this is like a distillation of a lot of experience and practice and teaching. And yeah, so together we'll hopefully become better presenters and visualizers and storytellers of data throughout reading this book in January. With that, I know we have Patrick here. Patrick is a contributor at MetricsDAO, and he's already started reading the book for the book club, and I know he's already applying the skills that he learned. So he wanted to actually share a couple of, I think, examples and thoughts with y'all. Patrick, here's to you.
Okay, great, thank you. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. And before I start showing, I actually have a question. Do we want to keep some kind of pace as a group throughout January? Because I know you posted at one point we're going to read chapter 1 through 3 and then 4 through 6. So is that something we're going to do in public?
That's a great question. Yes. So we had a kind of a time plan layout for December, but since we are extending into January, the reading group forum has like a recommended time plan for January. And so this week is chapters 1 through 3, I believe, and then next week a few more, and then third week kind of the rest of them. So if you head on to that Discord forum, you can see that layout of the chapters that we're going to be reading together. And I'll be there with you all every week, starting a kind of a separate thread in that forum and posting kind of my own reflections as I'm reading the book, or questions for you all, or kind of having a discussion. So yeah, there is a recommended pace there to follow. Hope that helps.
Okay. Yeah, that does help. So, okay, good. So I'm actually on topic because this week we're supposed to read chapters 1 through 3. So let me share my slideshow quickly. All right, so these are some of the key points that I learned from chapters 1 through 3. One is identify your target audience. This will help you craft your message, what you want to present, how you want to present, and what's your recommendation for the next action from your target audience. So I actually applied this to a study that I'm doing as far as the effectiveness of MetricsDAO's events. So we have, you may know, we have events in the education part, which is the Web3 analytics course, the ASIC course, the algorithm course that you guys are seeing. There's also the marketing events, which are everything that we're doing right now, including the book club. Community events are how I broke into Web3. All of these events takes time and effort to put on, right, as you can tell. So we want to know, how are these events contributing to our KPI, which is growing our community? And who are these key stakeholders? These are all the MetricsDAO contributors and leads who are interested in how we direct our effort and effectively direct our effort. And what is the takeaway I want them to take away is, well, how can we actually better focus our effort? Or secondarily, how do we actually improve some of the ways we market our existing events? So that crafts what comes next, which is my presentation. Now you'll see there's three parts to it. On the very left-hand side is when I started this back in November. I had all the raw data. I had to develop the method to get the data out of the sea of of data, of raw data, right? And I did that. That's wonderful. I have a methodology, I documented it. But where I fell short is this. If you look at the summary on the left-hand side, I gave you all the details. How many addresses, how many new users we're getting, and from which event type in education we're getting these people, right? And then same thing for the marketing side. Do you care to know, do you care to say what is the failing of that first presentation? What makes it difficult to read? And you're feel free to critique. You can type it, you can unmute. Okay. I'm getting one or two responses. No response. Okay, so I will just give you these stories. Basically, what happens is this. Instead of doing the explanatory presentation, I was doing exploratory presentation, meaning here's what the numbers are, right? This is how I arrived at it. That's all wonderful. That's all stuff that should be in your final report. Just like in your challenges dashboards, those things that back up your conclusions should be there. Otherwise, no one, if someone wants to dig one level deeper and say, are the conclusions correct? They will have nothing to go on. So it is important that the methodology and the detailed data be there. But you as an analyst should boil that up one more level, which is draw some conclusion, not just a summary of the data, but what is your conclusion? So, okay, I read the book. I was reading the book throughout December. I said, okay, that's my failing on my first attempt. I presented this. One person read it with interest. One key stakeholder who is responsible for driving the KPI, read it in detail, came to a conclusion, but he had to draw the conclusion himself because I failed to do that. And when he presented this to the wider audience, even though everyone here is invested in understanding these KPI, no one actually came and said, oh, I see the conclusion is this, because the numbers are just too hard to read. It's a bunch of tiny little numbers. They have to do the division, addition in their own mind. So I said, okay, by mid-December, I'm doing the next level, which is instead of just presenting the exploratory data, I'm actually presenting the explanation and the conclusion. Right, so I wrote the conclusion. What is the conclusion? Where are we getting these new users? And I actually made the text bigger, italicized. And guess what? When I presented this, still, no one actually said anything, including all the people who are working super hard on these events. So I said, I keep reading the book, and I said, you know, what is wrong with the presentation? Because I have already made the conclusion visible and bolded and bigger text, and still no one really paid attention. So finally, you know what? Let me go the next step, which is let's just boil the one or two numbers that actually matters and make it super big, which is what the book recommends. If you only have one or two numbers, don't be afraid of making it the centerpiece of your presentation and make it at the top. So that once you hook people into it, okay, 91% of our unique addresses or new users are from educational events. Okay, that matters now because the people who are running the marketing events are saying, okay, am I only contributing 9% to this KPI? Well, that matters to me because I'm spending a lot of time and energy on this. So what's going on? So that then spawned the next set of action, which is we have to better market our marketing events. It's great that they're being used to engage our existing community, keep them interested, informed, but to reach a wider audience, we got to think and do something different with these events. So that final presentation is the same data that got the read. That finally got the reactions from the wider audience. As you can see, from left to right, same thing, presented differently. The final presentation is the one that got the reactions and got people to act on the conclusion, on the data. So that's my learning. Hopefully you're getting something out of this as well. So, okay, let me tie this up. I should take my own medicine. So as I was looking at some of the past dashboards from cohort 2, there are a lot of very, very capable analysts. They can write queries, they can look at the data, they can use the tools available in Doom and in Flipside to present the data. But what I've noticed consistently is very few people manage to actually make the conclusion, where someone who's coming in either from a very busy schedule, they're not familiar with the material, can say, okay, what is my takeaway from this? And of the maybe 30% of people who actually made a conclusion, drew a summary, guess what most of them did? They buried it at the end. So they still started out with, here are all my details. This is how I did my due diligence, my analysis. And after you read through about a page of charts, detailed analysis, the summary is buried at the end. So my suggestion is put the summary at the top, put your conclusion at the top, so that people know, hey, what is interesting? And now they're hooked. Then they can say, okay, is this guy right? Let me look at his methodology. Let me look at his detailed analysis. So that should be our takeaway. All right, Marina, back to you.
Thank you, Patrick, for sharing your presentation. This is really awesome. And thank you for talking through your learnings and learnings that you would recommend for others to take from this. I know I speak for more than just myself when I say that not only kind of your example was illustrative, but also there was a great deal of storytelling in your presentation today. And that really kind of answered the question of why the audience, aka us, should care about the data and the information you're presenting. And that's a takeaway from the book itself. So I really appreciate kind of you hitting both of those points. And Sandesh in the chat mentioned that your presentation, Patrick, convinced him that he has to start reading the book now, and he's going to start it today. So it was very impactful. Congratulations. And also, we have another comment in the chat that I'm going to read out. Rakael mentioned they started chapter 1 to 3 today and really loved chapter 1 because it helps put things in perspective when it comes to identifying your audience. And that's something they've been struggling with. I think, Rakael, first of all, if you want to also unmute and kind of say a couple of words, you're welcome. But if not, that's okay. Awesome. If you do later, let us know. So if anyone else kind of would like to comment on that, you two are welcome at any time. And I have a couple of thoughts of my own to share as well. I know that identifying our audience and kind of making sure we serve our audience is something many of us struggle with. I personally have struggled with it. There's different kind of, I guess your outputs would really, really differ depending on who you think your audience is, what context you think they have, and what action you're kind of expecting them or would like them to take based on the data you're giving. So that's something that stood out to me as well, and I'm going to keep practicing and hopefully getting better at that part. And I think the kind of the call to action bit there is also really important, and I'm really glad the author, Cole Nussbaumer and Affleck, pointed it out because it's not just that we kind of want the audience to have all the information. We also want them, in most cases, to kind of have a takeaway, have an insight, maybe take an action, which is kind of what Patrick was illustrating, right? With kind of hopefully impacting action with the data that he found. So yeah, does anyone else have already any thoughts, questions, feedback, maybe on what Patrick said or Rakael said or Sandesh, or or any questions?
Actually, I do. So hopefully this is helpful to audit analysts. And I noticed this in reading the MetricsDAO dashboards. Like some people can write. I want to call out BU, right? B_U, who is very good at writing in addition to presenting the data. But for these analysts, what would be a good target audience? Is it the protocol advocacy crew? Is it the traders? Is it some other financial analysts? What is a good target audience for them to pretend to have when one is not given to them?
That's a great question. I have a couple of thoughts and also want to ask before I go into that, does anyone else have any thoughts? I know we have some great analysts here. We have Jagga, we have Rakael, we have Sandesh, we have others. Who is the audience that when you create your dashboards, like who is the audience you have in mind? And you
Hi,
hello.
can I speak? Hi. I think I had the same question as his. Like, who are we targeting exactly for some different dashboards? Because you'd be thinking, like, am I targeting like the business team behind this protocol? Is it like the users of the protocol, the traders? Like, who is it exactly? Like, if it's like a chain itself, like who am I? Who is the target audience for the? Like, if it's like looking back at the dashboards we did recently, like who would be like the best target audience for that?
That's a really great question. So, any of you analysts who are already creating dashboards or mega dashboards or regular ones, when you do it, who is the audience that kind of you have in mind? Do you care to share with us? And don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I know we have some great and experienced analysts in the audience here today. And I think Sandesh is typing in the chat. He tries to aim for either the general crypto audience or the protocol team itself. But Sandesh said he thinks he needs to change that approach and would love to hear our thoughts. Anyone? I see another participant typing here in chat. So a couple of thoughts here. So first of all, there's bounties or analytics challenges are kind of a unique case, right? So you've got a few kind of groups that you're probably reaching. One is you're definitely reaching the peer reviewers in MetricsDAO, and peer reviewers are fellow analysts, fellow community analysts who are really great and who have by participating kind of shown that and who have a great record. That's how they become peer reviewers. So to kind of for your score, that's kind of one level, right? For your score and for your feedback and comments, that's your audience. In addition, many of us tweet and share our work, develop our Twitter audience, make threads, kind of put graphs in the threads, all that to try to reach a broader kind of crypto, blockchain, Web3 crowd. So when if you know that your dashboard you're creating is going to be hitting some of that Twitter crowd, that's another thing to think about. Finally, the partners usually are the ones that kind of you want to benefit from the data, you want to benefit from the insights that you create, and partners are the ones who kind of solicit the analytics challenges and want to see the insights and outcomes. So that's kind of another group to keep in mind. I'm curious, and I'm kind of myself going to be thinking through this as I read the book. Kind of do these is there any kind of mutual exclusivity in how to present data to these three groups, or are they all ultimately kind of all after the same thing? I guess I want to say that for the peer review, our evaluation criteria are designed in a way to kind of already hit on those points, right? Professionalism, like things that will ultimately benefit the general audience, things that will ultimately benefit the protocol partners to understand your data. So all of those things are kind of conveyed, or that at least that's the idea, to convey them in the evaluation criteria. So the reviewers are meant to be kind of a proxy for those other audiences. If it's working for them, it should work for the broader audience and vice versa. If it's to work for a client, it kind of has to work for the reviewer and make sense to them. So that's just some thoughts. None of these are canon. None of these are kind of final. These are thoughts in progress. And I know we have some chat comments. Okay, so Zach Mandel mentioned that for the Mega Dash, some of them were aimed at the new users, and Terra was for the community. So that's a great shout out that sometimes an analytics challenge will kind of tell you or nudge you towards who it wants you to communicate with. And that can come kind of from what the partner's goal is when they solicited this analytics challenge. So that's a really good kind of source to think about and to look at. So yeah, these are discussions. These are not again kind of anything final or anything in stone. So I would love to hear kind of more thoughts either today or in the reading group as you're reading the book and you're kind of having those ideas. Like who are our audiences? Are they kind of mutually exclusive in how we communicate with them and what we want to them to take away, and do we want them to take any action? Do we communicate differently, or is it all ultimately kind of one big push towards a more professional, a more clear cut, a more well communicated dashboard? So I think that's kind of one of the questions maybe we'll start to discuss async in our thread. Okay, I hear someone's unmuting. Would love to hear from you. Is it Kai Blade? I can't hear you right now.
Hop in.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, I think generally the people that you would want to like make the dashboards for are people who have like some knowledge of the chain, but don't know a ton. So like, because that's kind of the general audience. Like if you post it on Twitter or something like that, that's who's going to be looking at it. So like, you want to kind of give an introduction that somebody who's not too familiar with it would know, but like you want to, and you don't want to get so technical that somebody who doesn't know everything about the chain wouldn't understand your dashboard. So kind of like the media, like medium level like knowledge that kind of you're talking is kind of what usually.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Jack. I actually, since you're here and you're talking, I would like to kind of call you out and like put you on the spot a little bit and ask you a question. I know you've seen probably a lot of dashboards and their kind of introductions, and I think in their introductions, they that's where kind of a lot of that audience assumption comes through. Like, who do I think is my audience, and how much do they know, and how much do they need to know? So are there any kind of best practices that you do or you've seen maybe from Pines or other analysts, and maybe some kind of do nots for the dashboards based on who we think the audience is?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of do nots off the top of my head, but in terms of what to do, I like to assume that people have a general knowledge of like the crypto space and maybe the chain that I'm talking about, and then not really assume too much more and then kind of build the knowledge up from there. That's kind of how I like to do it, or the ones I've seen.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, like you said, maybe there something for us all to think about is kind of the sweet spot, right? To give the background, maybe not trying to catch up somebody who's never heard of crypto, but at the same time giving just enough context for someone who maybe doesn't know the protocol or maybe doesn't know how exactly the protocol works. So kind of a bit of a middle ground there. Does anyone else want to kind of chime in on the audience, and are we communicating differently to different audiences through bounties or analytics challenges, or kind of any other thoughts? All right. I think, first of all, thank you all of you for already kind of asking these questions and chiming in and kind of sharing what's on your mind after starting to read the book or even before. I think these are already some great points to kind of have in our async discussion over the next 3 weeks. And with that, I think we're going to move to wrap up our kickoff of the book club. We will be reading async for the next 3 weeks. It's in the reading group Discord forum, and there's a recommended breakdown of chapters per week, and we'll also be there. Myself and probably some other contributors will be there to kind of have these conversations in those threads. There'll be one thread in the forum per week. The first one is already there. You'll see that it's January 9th to I think 15th or 16th, whichever the week is. And yeah, again, we have an Xmetric claim form today in this call. It's in the chat. I'm going to repost it again. So this is us saying thanks for you being here live. So if you would love to send all of you here, Xmetric for being here, so just please drop your wallet so we can do that. And yes, as always, there's the Notion for the book club. Let me post that again as well. I'll post in the forum, I'll post our evaluation criteria that peer reviewers use at MetricsDAO, as this kind of has come up and kind of interplays with data presentation and professionalism. And there's probably a few points to discuss there. And yeah, okay, I'm just reposting our Notion. And I see Zach Mandel is typing, so I'm gonna give you a moment to kind of finish typing there. No? All right, well, anytime you can chime in, you can discuss, you can ask questions, you can answer questions in the reading group for this book club. And we will be reading async, and then we'll meet again at the end of January or early February. I think end of January is what we're aiming for, to kind of have a wrap-up discussion. And so one thing that I'd like to invite you to do is, as you're reading the book, start applying, like Patrick did, some of those takeaways to your dashboards. And if you come to the next live for the book club, bring the link, bring your dashboard, bring kind of the story, what you did differently, kind of how, if you think that worked, if you disagree and think it didn't, kind of anything that comes from your experience of applying it. I would love to see that at the next live in about 3 weeks. And towards the end of the month, we'll vote on the next book from the long list that we have going. So anytime you get a book idea, just a reminder, drop it in the reading group as well, so we can add it to our book bank, our book long list, and then vote on. All right, with that, I want to say thank you for all of you being here for the book club kickoff. Again, don't forget to drop us your wallet for Xmetric that we'll send you, and happy reading. Really excited to read with you all. Thank you.